Once again, good to see you back. I'm glad you didn't leave. That would have been awkward. Let's kick off with the story that is dominating the front pages, and that is the continued fallout from Donald Trump's announcements on global tariffs earlier this week. We're kicking off with the front page of The Times. Tell us a little bit about this. This is how one country in particular has responded.
Yeah, so this is China. This is obviously quite a major country that is engaging in these trade wars now, and they've responded perhaps in an unhelpful way. I guess that'll yet to be found, but they've also now imposed their own tariffs on the USA of 34%. And this is something that we are looking into, seeing whether this is going to be happening more and more over the coming days. We're getting a lot of different reactions from all over the world because these tariffs have been completely blanket. Everyone has been affected by them, which is very interesting in its own right.
But to different degrees.
To different degrees, exactly. And we've got this weekend, Starmer is going to be having a lot of different phone calls with a lot of world leaders, particularly in the EU, to sort of see where everyone stands and see the position that they want to take going forward. In the UK, we're doing this 30-day consultation period where businesses will be able to come forward, which is great. But I also think the 30-day consultation period will be a time period in which we hope we'll be able to make our own trade deal and trading arrangements with the US.
That's certainly the hope of the government, isn't it?
Certainly the hope.
And they talk about intensive negotiations ongoing at the moment. Big questions over that, I guess, and what progress they can make, and also what they would have to give up in order to strike a trade deal.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a bullet, but as we know, things are a lot more complex than that. And, you know, they've been trying to get a free trade deal with the US for years and years now. It's not just Starmer taking up the mantle on this. So, you know, how likely that is in the short sure it's going to be a kind of get out of jail free card at the moment. But yeah, it is pretty dreadful news here. These are the two largest economies in the world, the US and China. So the idea that they're kind of at each other's throats in a trade war is not good news. I mean, we're already seeing the repercussions of this. The FTSE 100 had its worst day since the start of the COVID pandemic this week, which is absolutely shocking. We all remember, you know, the tumultuous markets at that point as people sort of were terrified of what was going on. Actually, you know, reach that point again.
And the same true for American markets as well.
Absolutely.
Also their worst week since the pandemic.
Yeah.
I mean, China has slapped on these tariffs, 34% on America in retaliation. They're clearly calculating that their economy is big enough to take the pain because they know that they're going to feel it themselves.
Yeah.
But they obviously feel that they need to be seen to be strong in the face of America, and they see some kind of political advantage, if you like, for making a strong move.
Definitely. And Keir Starmer will be under immense pressure right now himself to be seen to make a strong political move. I think this story has obviously come out of this week. It's moved on so much already. We're hearing talks today, and it's in the Telegraph a bit, that there may be a deal coming out between the US and Vietnam today. So there may already be arrangements being made. What I think we should look at as well is what happened when Trump put out his tariffs on Canada and Mexico. And at first, that was a huge move. Both countries were very much afraid of what was going to happen. But actually, within a matter of days, just a week, he had rowed back on those taxes a bit, and he had expanded the list of products that fell under those taxes as well. And I'm hoping that that's sort of similar to what we're going to see now when he realises that the economic impact on everyone is going to be so massive. I mean, JP Morgan have upped their stat for likely a global recession from 40% to 60% this year. So terrible figures.
Donald Trump says big businesses love it, and he says that further down the line, the country's economy will be benefiting. That's what Donald Trump says. Let's move on to the I, though, shall we, Molly? This is the EU leaders. Everyone is grappling with how to deal with this. EU leaders have also got to come up with a response, and opinions vary.
Yeah, indeed. And they've suffered much more badly, it should be said, and much worse, I should say, than in the UK. So the UK got slapped with 10%, but the EU is 20%, I believe. So they are suffering much more significantly. And they're considering bringing out what they're describing as a trade bazooka, which is a word I feel we should use more in newspapers. Haven't heard that for a long time. But it's also known in its formal term as the anti-coercion instrument. So it's a sort of lever that the EU can pull to sort of impose tariffs, trade services, access to foreign direct investment. So it's sort of their counter-response. But there's a real division of opinion as to how they should use this and when, if at all. I think countries like Italy are quite resistant to this. So their Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, is known to be quite close with Trump. or as close as any EU country can be to Trump at the moment, and I think is pushing back on. It does raise this question: how do you respond? Because if free trade and free market access is your aim, then instinctively upping the trade war and putting on your own tariffs is sort of counterintuitive to that. It's sort of a counterpoint. But you can't be seen politically not to do anything at all. So they're in a bit of a bind, I think.
It is very difficult, isn't it? Because Donald Trump he might lift certain tariffs if he feels that certain moves have been made that help him in another way. He's unpredictable, and that's very difficult to plan for.
It's very difficult to plan for. And there have been other calls today about whether the UK should join up with the EU and all these other countries that have been affected, sort of against is perhaps the wrong word, but join up and unite as a united front, start trading more with each other. I mean, what would happen if the EU just starts trading much more with China and back and forth and just cut the US out completely? That would be terrible for America, terrible for their economy. And I think the language that Trump uses around this sometimes is a little bit juvenile, perhaps. I don't think it's going to be making America wealthy again. The actual American consumers are going to be feeling this in all the prices that are going to be rising just in their consumer products.
I think there's a bit of false narrative around this as well within the US. I've just been there, and there was this kind of feeling within government circles that, well, we don't need Europe anyway, we don't need them on defence, we don't need them on the economy. And we obviously saw from the leaked Signal chat messages, the Vice President of the US basically calling the Europeans freeloaders. Actually, the GDP of the whole of Europe as a bloc stacks up very well against the US, and they have been crucial partners on things like defence. So I think this idea that the US can just get by on its own, I think is misguided, and I think will be felt at some point.
Being felt by Percy Pigs.
Yeah. Being felt by Percy Pigs. Pigs on the chopping block.
The big story of the day.
It is. This is in the Sun.
But yeah, so Percy Pigs have just launched in America. They've just launched in Target. And now they're coming out and saying that because of these tariff hikes, they might actually have to pull back from America, and then America won't get the luxury of the Percy Pigs that we've enjoyed here in the UK.
I was going to say they're Marks and Spencer's pig sweets, but then I realised that there is nobody who doesn't know that.
No, they're just a British sort of golden gem, aren't they? The thing that I like the most in here is the chairman of M&S, Archie Norman, calling them our gift to America. This is their flagship product, and it is actually the only M&S product in America, but potentially not for much longer.
It says it's a gift, you won't want to give them away. Let's have a quick look, Lettuce, at an article inside the Mail which suggests that half of sick notes are handed out without the patient seeing a doctor.
I know. So, yeah, half of sick notes have been handed out. That's nearly 11 million fit notes over the past 12 months to June last year, which is a huge number. Now, we know that Rishi Sunak had out plans before the general election last year in order to essentially strip GPs of the powers of giving out sick notes because they were finding that they were sort of giving them out too willingly. Some of the data here says that, 37% of these people got them just after having a chat on the phone and 13% just after going online without seeing anyone at all. And so there have been plans that have been laid. Whether Labour are going to pick these up again, who knows? But Labour have obviously been making a lot of moves around welfare cuts and where they're going to be saving money. There are financial hard times ahead, we could say, with defence spending going up and maybe now all these tariffs and things in place, where the government's going to find all this extra money for people being off work and maybe not working. It's going to be hard for them right now. But
I do wonder if this is being a little bit overinflated, though, because I don't know the stats, but I would be interested to know how many other types of things are handed out just over a phone consultation, because I'm sure many of us have tried to go and see our GP and, due to the kind of constraints they're under, get a phone consultation instead. So it's not just sick notes, which are being handed out over the phone. But, yeah, obviously some of the stats here and some of the quotes are a little bit alarming.
OK, we are out of time, but Molly and Lettuce, it's been really good to have your company this morning. Thanks so much for taking us through the papers this morning. We appreciate it. And all the top stories coming up next.
We are under Israeli military